must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Thank you very much for watching Punchline Africa Television. This is Friday, the 8th of October, the year of our Lord 2021. This is Punchline Africa Television, the television in sub-Saharan Africa, the only one south of Sahara that talks what ails Africa, what matters about Africa, why Africa matters. This morning is a very important day that we want to touch on something that matters to the Great Lakes region and the region, the Horn of Africa, and Africa as a whole. In my show, my opinion, I want to take you through the pain of peace, the pain, the anguish of peace. How people destroy peace. How Western countries plan to dismember Africa. How Africa has been dismembered. How we have been kept under constant wars. This morning, my show, my opinion, will land on Somalia. Is Somalia a state without a state? I don't know anybody who has studied political science will understand that there is a state without a state, a nation without a nation. When we reach that level, then we know there is something which is not very right. In Africa, we are watching a state without a state, trying to acquire more territory in order to become a state, yet they cannot hold an inch of what they have. Good morning, Africa. This show also, the rest I will leave it to Miriam in part 2, which will come under Unfiltered, where she will discuss more of the week and the news headlines across Africa. This one is my opinion, and it will be purely mine. When you come to make an opinion, just make your sentiment. Thank you very much. On the panel, we have Miriam Ogutu in our general headquarters. Good morning, Miriam.
Good morning to you, Doc, and good morning to our viewers.
Thank you very much. Across in Kenya, in central Kenya, we have Sharon Gitonga. Good morning, Sharon.
Good morning to you, Dr. Matanga, Miriam at the headquarters, my co-panelist Tawish, and to all our viewers watching us across the globe. Good morning.
Thank you very much. And across, we have our special assignment editor on the panel who will chip in the Taron, Samuel Tawish Olesesana, right from Narok. Good morning, Tawish.
Good morning to you, Dr. David Masanga. Good morning to Miriam Ogutu. Good morning to my colleague panelist, Sharon Gitonga, and all our viewers who are watching this program in Africa and the rest of the world. My pleasure to join you on this program. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Tawish, for keeping the patronage, and Gitonga and Miriam for keeping the fort. I am back. Thank you very much. As a state non-actor, and myself, I'm Dr. David Matsanga, right from the Political Command Center that commands the politics of the international community and the world and Kenya at large. 4 years ago, Somalia started a war, a psychological war on Kenya. It took the boundary, the maritime boundary dispute into the International Court of Justice. Under the auspices of Norway, Turkey, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Somalia was pressurized to take a step forward beyond what the African Union constitutive powers entail as far as boundaries are concerned. Today, from that time to this time, efforts have been made by the people of East Africa, IGAD, and other regions, the African Union. We have called upon the two countries to sit down and mediate a conflict that could spark tension and a crisis in the Indian Ocean. Our calls have landed on deaf ears. Nobody has heeded to our calls. We have written a plethora of information and letters to the United Nations Secretary General, including one that last night that I penned the United Nations Secretary General, copied to President Uhuru Kenyatta, copied to President Museveni, copied to African Union, copied to President Kagame, copied to President Mnangagwa, copied to United Nations General Assembly itself, or member states, through their Twitter handles that are verifiable. Copied to Prime Minister Britain, copied to the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, copied to the Secretary General of the East African Community, copied to the President Farimajo in Villa, Somalia, copied to the European Union Foreign Affairs personnel that are in charge of Africa. Copied to the 5 members of the United Nations Security Council regarding the ruling and regarding the case between Kenya and Somalia on the maritime border dispute. The purpose of this letter, therefore, is to put myself on record as a non-state, and I want it to be repeated. I'm not acting on behalf of Kenya government. I am acting as a non-state actor, a peacemaker, a peaceman, peaceful envoy, a man who sees special attributes or special circumstances coming out of the region if we don't cool down the tension and we don't deferment and deferral of this matter until we sort out Somalia. We bring Somalia to a level that the people of the world will understand that peace has returned. I've written this letter to be on record, and I want to be on record. Let history not judge me harshly that I did not do anything. After all, Malcolm X said, if you want action, you have to do something. Keeping quiet will destroy you internally. I don't want to be counted among those who have been shy of telling it as it is. I have been doing my job and I've done it as it is, as an African. Not only an African, but a descendant of one of the countries that is in Somalia, whose troops are suffering, whose sons, brothers, daughters, sisters are suffering on the behalf of the people of Somalia. I want to make it categorically clear that as a Ugandan, I have a stake in the issues that pertain to the Somali sovereignty and to Somalia itself. I have a stake. I have my brothers, 14 to 15,000 troops stationed in Mogadishu. I have a stake. I have widows. I have those who have lost wives, husbands, back in my village. Therefore, I have a stake. And for me to keep quiet and call myself an intellectual, run around with the briefcase in aeroplanes without saying the truth and without telling the world that any judgment that will come out of the Somalia-Kenya maritime will trigger a crisis in the Indian Ocean. It will be naive. It will be I did not go to school. Today, I made it categorically clear that I have told the Secretary General, Guterres, that time is now. There is no rush. There is no criminality here. There is no criminal performance of a case. We are not in the International Criminal Court. We are in International Court of Justice. There is no justice that will decay if the matter between Kenya and Somalia is deferred or deferral under Article 40, 39, 40, 41, 42, 32. Sorry, 40, 39, 40, 41, 42. Anybody, whether you are a Kenyan diplomat or not, but it's up to you. I am a non-state actor. I'm not representing anybody. I'm representing the interest of the people who have no diplomats. That is the international community. The people who want to trade in the Indian Ocean peacefully. I'm representing the British, American, German, African, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Egypt, Asmara, Eritrea, anybody who trades, China, Australia. Our trade depends on Indian Ocean. The peace in Indian Ocean, the Gulf states depend on Indian Ocean. The Indian subcontinent depends on Indian Ocean. If peace is disrupted in any of the areas of the Indian Ocean, the trade, international trade, local trade, regional trade will be kaput. My position, therefore, is that why have we not looked ahead and we are looking backwards? Why has the Secretary General, who is the General Manager, mandated by the United Nations Security Council to oversee the pleadings, to oversee the management of International Court of Justice? Why? Why are we sleeping over like we have slept over Biafra? Like we have slept over Amazonia? Like we have slept over Central African Republic? Like we have slept over many areas in the Sahara region that are undergoing the hammer of Islamists? We have sat on Amazonia, the people dying there. Nobody is talking. We have sat on Biafra, the people being killed. Nobody is talking. Central African Republic, nobody is talking. I have come out to talk. If Nyerere was around, if Obote was around, if Baba Tafawa Balewa was around, if Ben Bella was around, if Sekou Touré was around, if Patrice Lumumba was around, if Kwame Nkrumah was around, if Siad Barre was around, if Jomo Kenyatta was around, Haile Selassie was around, Gabriel Nassar was around, if Mandela was around, if Nkrumah was around, they would say the words that I'm saying. We have a problem that is coming from the ICJ. On Tuesday, 11th or 12th of October, the International Court of Justice will deliver what we call a verdict or an opinion. The opinion could be non-enforceable or non-binding because they don't have the army to bind. But that opinion will create chaos. That opinion will get this country and the countries that are involved in the maritime dispute. The conduct of this court has been under scrutiny. First, the Somali judge presided over the entire case of Kenya and Somalia. Is there fairness? Is there any fairness there? No. The Somali judge, a friend of the Somali, born in Somalia, presided over this case. Mr. Secretary General, if this is what you call international justice, then where shall we get the justice? Maybe when near Angel Gabriel. Point number 2, if you look at the threat to peace, what threatens peace right now in the Indian Ocean is the mere fact that you talk of dividing oil blocks that already have been there millions and millions of years. Above all, what was the aim of bringing this topic at this hour? Who are the beneficiaries? Is it we? Is it the Somali? Is it the Kenyans? Is it the people of Africa? Do we benefit from the conflict of redrawing our boundaries? What does the African Union say? The constitutive arrangement that 1884 Bismarck, the giving of people by Karl Peters and others that sat in Berlin and exchanged Uganda with another island and sold that island to Germany, and the German took that island, the island went to Uganda. Those arrangements, Italian swap, they gave Somalia, Puntland and this. Don't that arrangement. The founding fathers of the African Union found it that it would cause chaos if we started making new arrangements. If you drew the border the way Somalia wants, then South Africa will be near Gibraltar. I don't know whether most of you listening to me watching this video will know that the way Somalia wants the border drawn will take South Africa to Gibraltar, which joins Europe. Therefore, what are we trying to do here? Tanzania will have no port. Kenya will have no port. Other countries, Maputo, will be down in South Africa. Port Cape Town will be in DRC Congo. We shall be turning down the entire African map. Is it us? I want you to take a look. Take a pause, Mr. Secretary General. Isn't it a time for you, sir, to step in? Is it a matter of death and life and death that this judgment should be brought on Tuesday? What does it serve? What interest does this judgment serve in a region which is volatile, where a state is not a state? Somalia is not a state. It's a state without a state. Because it doesn't have functioning activities. It doesn't function. It has not got even a single toilet to function. Because when you go to the toilet in Mogadishu, you must get a gunman waiting for you to come out. Time has come to be told the truth. There is no state in Somalia. It's state without a state. In political science, such a state is not a state. For those who have not read political science, it's your problem. My problem here is to put it quite boldly. We have not captured 1 inch from the terrorists. We want to capture another territory. For what? Unless we have got desires of expansionism. Who has brought these desires of expansionism? Take a look. Bring that video. Let's see why Africa suffers every day. Take a look. One of my students that I have taught, I've engaged her several times and I told her to go. She's saying it. Take a look.
One thing that keeps me puzzled, despite having studied finance and economics at the world's best universities, the following question remains unanswered. Why is it that 5,000 units of our currency is worth 1 unit of your currency, where we are the ones with the actual gold reserves? It's quite evident that the aid is in fact not coming from the West to Africa, but from Africa to the Western world. The Western world depends on Africa in every possible way, since alternative resources are scarce out here. So how does the West ensure that the free aid keeps coming? By systematically destabilizing the wealthiest African nations and their systems, and all that backed by huge PR campaigns, leaving the entire world under the impression that Africa is poor and dying and merely surviving on the mercy of the West. Well done, Oxfam, UNICEF, Red Cross, Life Aid, and all the other organizations that continuously run multi-million-dollar advertisement campaigns depicting charity porn to sustain that image of Africa globally. Ad campaigns paid for by innocent people under the impression to help with their donations. While one hand gives under the flashing lights of cameras, the other takes in the shadows. We all know the dollar is worthless, while the euro is merely charged with German intellect and technology, and maybe some Italian pasta. How can one expect donations from nations that have so little? It's super sweet of you to come with your colored paper in exchange for our gold and diamonds. But instead, you should come empty-handed, filled with integrity and honor. We want to share with you our wealth and invite you to share with us. The perception is that a healthy and striving Africa would not disperse its resources as freely and cheaply, which is logical. Of course, it would instead sell its resources at world market prices, which in turn would destabilize and weaken Western economies, established on the post-colonial free meal system. Last year, the IMF reports that 6 out of 10 of the world's fastest growing economies are in Africa, measured by their GDP growth. The French Treasury, for example, is receiving about $500 billion year in, year out. Foreign exchange reserves from African countries based on colonial debt they forced them to pay. Former French President Jacques Chirac stated in an interview recently that we have to be honest and acknowledge that a big part of the money in our banks comes precisely from the exploitation of the African continent. In 2008, he stated that without Africa, France will slide down in the rank of a third world power. This is what happens in the human world, the world we have created. Have you ever wondered how things work in nature? One would assume that in evolution the fittest survives. However, in nature, any species that is overhunting, overexploiting the resources they depend on as nourishment, natural selection would sooner or later take the predator out because it offsets the balance.
Thank you very much, viewers. As stated in my opening remarks, my opinion still remains anchored on the video that you have seen now. Keep Africa destabilized. The key point out of that video is the destabilization of Africa in order to siphon the resources. If you keep Africa peaceful, how will you come to take the resources? How will you dig the gold mines? How will you tender on the diamonds? If you keep Africa peaceful, how will you come and make sure that the oil goes out of Nigeria, where people live on a $2 per day? Yet Nigeria takes out huge amounts of oil, sells it out to multinational companies. If you keep Somalia stable and stability comes in Somalia, where else will the West get what they want? The theater of operation has narrowed it down, Miriam and the panel. It has narrowed it down. In Afghanistan, we have left with tears and our pants halfway in the knees. Now we want to find another conflict in Indian Ocean. The conflict between Somalia and Kenya is clear that if the ruling is made, there is no country, none of these countries will keep quiet and sit and watch. Above all, what is this expansionist theory of a state without a state that it wants to manufacture another state on the Indian Ocean, yet you cannot capture 1 inch of your own state? Where is the logic? Unless you are being pushed to capture state for other external forces. This is my point. This is my opinion, that the Secretary General should look at this case, that as a non-state actor, it is not international criminal court. That if it was international criminal court, I would have become amicus curiae to deliver an amicus curiae to stand on a point of law of international law that I disagree. But since the ICJ does not accept non-states, you can only make an application as a state. Can Kenya make an application? Has it made an application as a state to the manager, the general manager of International Court of Justice, who is the Secretary General, to tell them, we have had enough, we are seeing enough, we are watching enough, there could be a war. Mine is, I have done it. Today on this television is historical for me, that I've stood out and said, what comes, whatever comes, let history judge me. That if you make any judgment, either giving any one piece of this item in the Indian Ocean, which is deep in the deep seas of the Indian Ocean, you will trigger a war. That is my opinion. And that is why I'm seeking under the United Nations Chapter 7 of the United Nations Charter, Article 39, 40, 41, very clear articles. I think any of the panelists, Miriam, can read for us what triggers, what is a threat to peace. Is the judgment coming from the ICJ not a threat to peace? If the answer is yes, support me. If the answer is no, then wait to go to hell. Thank you. Back to you, Miriam.
All right. Thank you, Doc, for that.
I now open up for anybody to make a comment. Let me begin with Miriam. Whatever you have, what you feel, and we close down. We don't have too many words. My letter is very clear, and I think, Stephen, can you put that letter for people to see, the letter that has gone? And I have attached to 12 people, key institutions in the world who should know SADC, all these organizations, African Union, on verifiable, they read it, they have read it, I've received acknowledgement from most of the heads of state. I thank them very much. It is my duty, my humble duty as a Pan-African to state what I've said, that it is not worth it. There is no criminality involved in the case between Kenya and Somalia in the maritime border dispute. We can wait and pacify Somalia first. Then we can make the ruling when there is a civilized system in Somalia. At the moment, there is no state in Somalia that is capable to uphold any of the ruling. That's why I call it a state without a state. Miriam, over to you.
All right, Doc, thank you for that. And a couple of issues that you raised there before. And you know, Kenya has been adamant and has given its reasons as to why it did not feel this case was supposed to go forward. And even after the International Court of Justice decided to set dates on this, there are a couple of issues that Kenya brought forth that said it made it uncomfortable in the manner in which this case was taking place. And one of it is the presence of a Somali judge as part of, you know, the judges there that have been tasked to hear this case. And Kenya was right in this regard, because how do you have a Somali judge as part of the judges who are hearing a case between Kenya and Somalia? Obviously, that was a conflict of interest, and the fact that the ICJ did not think this is something that will be a problem is something I've never really understood. So in the interest of fairness and justice, I think the best thing that they would have done is responded to that, maybe even removed. I think the right thing to do would have to remove the Somali judge from that panel and then respond to other issues that Kenya brought forth. But ICJ did not do that. And so Kenya felt this was not a level playing field and decided they will not participate in this case. And we saw Kenya withdraw from being part of this case the last minute because of that treason and others that Kenya brought forth. I think there were around about 5 or so. And Somalia, we know this Kenya-Somalia case could be one of the things that even now is has brought a lot of even chaos within Somalia itself. Right now, there's a lot of Somalia is not very stable as it is. The leadership there is under wrangles, and because this case between Kenya and Somalia, there are internal forces which have a lot of interest in Somalia itself. We know Somalia is very ripe with opportunities because after years of war, there's no proper infrastructure, there's no industry, it's very ripe with opportunities. So people out there, and Kenya and other countries have worked so hard to try to stabilize this country. They're seeing now this is the best time to come in and see how they can reap, how they can help in the rebuilding efforts and put up industries and all that and take advantage of this. So there's a lot of external interest, and also the oil that we see, in the disputed blocks that have been disputed. They're rich in natural resources. And this is also another issue that these external forces are looking for. So this conflict is instigated from outside, and we've seen how that has played in, even in the leadership of Somalia. Right now, the current Prime Minister was seeking to even have a better diplomatic relationship between Somalia and Kenya. We see how that went on. President Farmajo went and removed some of his powers as we speak right now, and all of that, and even the former Prime Minister. And we know how they've been involved with certain companies that have had interest in Somalia in regards to the oil blocks there. So it's a lot to do, but I think this case poses indeed a threat to the peace of this region, and whichever way, it might not end up very good for this region, but we'll be hoping for the best. But I think at this point, there's no telling how either way this case will go, but I think we'll just be waiting and see what will happen after that ruling will be made. Was it on 12th of October? That is next week. Is it 12th or 14th? 12th.
Yes, 12th.
Yes. So we shall be waiting to see how that will play out there.
Thank you very much, Miriam, for bringing out those points. Well noted. The problem of who is behind pushing for this case to be heard and to be brought. It has brought wrangles within the government of Somalia. The former Prime Minister resigned. The new Prime Minister came in. cannot talk is part of this, because someone has fixed Somalia to the angle that never will it get out of this. Kenya cannot negotiate a peaceful arrangement with Somalia. It is a sad state. Let me hear from few comments from Sharon Gitonga before I come to Tawish, then last to Daniel as you came in the order of clocking in. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Matanga and Miriam, for your sentiments. And I think from the look of things and as days close, it's very clear now that the court is getting quite predictable that it's going to rule in favor of Somalia, despite, Kenya having pulled off at some point in respect to biasness and also having the judge who is presiding over the case coming from Somali. In itself, this is a threat to peace and, being as a conflict of interest. And the biggest question is, are we really going to allow our territorial, integrity to be taken away with? And I believe as being a country, Kenya being a country that has fought for independence, we must stand our ground and, not agree to give in even an inch of that tract. Because I look at, the local fishermen who depend on a daily living from, you can imagine how bad it's going to get, with the disruption of Indian Ocean. And not just a local fisherman, I also look at, so many people and so many countries that trade and depend on the Indian Ocean, which is really going to be, turn out quite ugly. And going by, Dr. Matsanga's letter, it's my hope. And, I believe all is not lost. And again, hope is not lost. Besides, a stitch in time saves nine. We still have, a few days remaining. And I believe, with Dr. Matsanga's recommendation, I hope that the United Nations Secretary General will are able to stop the proceedings and give room for an intervention, with the help of the African Union to resolve the disputes for the sake of peace and stability, which if we don't manage right now, it's going to spread across Africa, not just between Kenya and Somalia, and in a large extent destabilize the economy across Africa. I submit.
Thank you very much, Sharon. The sentiments of a Kenyan. You see, I would like to invite more Somali people on the show next time when this issue of Somalia. Does Somalia have a state? Is a state without a state? Tawish, a state without a state wants most territory. Surely, if you can't govern even what you have, you need more, Tawish.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Masanga and my colleague panelists, of course, and particularly those who have made their submissions on this particular topic. Dr. Masanga, indeed, I've had the privilege of going through the petition or the application that you have actually put before the United Nations, and which you've highlighted to the effect that you've copied to all other relevant institutions in the world, in as far as this dispute between Kenya and Somalia is concerned. Indeed, Dr. Masanga, also listening to your submission this morning, it does corroborate to what exactly you had written. And I think as Kenyans and the people who are more of observers and analysts looking into this situation, I want to fully concur with you, Dr. Masanga, that all the reservations, misgivings, and all the points that you have raised in that particular application or petition really is factual. It is something that is not far-fetched. It is something that if overlooked by the relevant institutions, then it's going to have a far-reaching effect, not only to Somalia and Kenya, but I think to the entire region, if not the world. And Dr. Masanga, you even go to the extent of saying, assuming Somalia goes ahead and hives this part of course, the Indian Ocean as part of their territory, then it is going to have a ramification to the entire region of the East Africa, and it's going to affect even other boundaries in as far as the Indian Ocean waters are concerned. Therefore, I want to fully concur with you, Dr. Masanga, that what we need to have at the moment is not, of course, that particular ruling that the ICJ is preparing probably to give next week. They should forego it in the interest of security, in the interest of peace that we are pursuing as we speak today. There's a lot that Kenya, Uganda, and the rest of the region has done in terms of pacifying Somalia, seeing how Somalia can be stable after years of course, violence that has characterized that particular region in as far as the Al-Shabaab attacks are concerned. And therefore, Dr. Masanga, if this ruling is to be hastened, is to be made without due regard to the reservations and concerns that parties have raised, including yourself being a non-actor in this particular matter. Dr. Masanga, I think you're coming to this matter as an impartial observer, as an impartial actor, a person who is looking onto the greater impact, the ripple effect of this ruling. What will it have in the entire region? Not just the relationship between Somalia and Kenya, but what ripple effect will it have to the entire region? And I think that is the biggest concern, that is the motivating spirit behind your petition and application to the UN to see into it, how we can have a constitutive mechanism within which the UN Security Council can constitute a mechanism locally that is going to be backed by the UN to look into this situation so that they can bring Kenya and Somalia to the table to have dialogue and agree on this particular dispute on the Indian Ocean, Dr. Masanga. If we remain rigid and that we must get this ruling because either of the parties, regardless of how it's going to come out, I'm very certain, Dr. Masanga, that you are likely going to have worsen the relationship between Somalia and Kenya, and you know what that really means, even to the viewers who are watching this program, that is not what we all envisage. We want to remain objective, we want to remain impartial. Of course, each of these countries really want justice out of this. Whichever way it takes, it should be a win-win situation between Kenya and Somalia, so that by the end of the day, nobody will say, or no country will come out and say, we were overlooked or we were disadvantaged in as far as this matter is concerned. Already, Dr. Masanga, as I finalist, Kenya has already raised so many reservations. You and I understand, and of course the rest of the panelists understand from what Miriam has highlighted in terms of the conflict of interest, having a Somali origin judge at the ICJ, that was never looked into. I mean, how the matter was hurriedly taken over by ICJ, even in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic, when Kenya said we don't have enough time and resources to effectively participate in this matter. But all of those concerns were really put under the carpet, among many other concerns, Dr. Masanga. In itself, really, it points to a point. It points to the direction that this ruling is more going to prejudice Kenya, and it's likely going to favor Somalia. And what will be the effect? Then we are going to have maybe Kenya reject and go against that particular ruling. Are we going to have peace and stability in Somalia? Are we going to have Kenya continue pacifying Somalia, have its troops really sacrificed? So many soldiers, men and women, have died in Somalia trying to restore peace and stability in that region, not only from Kenya, but from the entire region. That is a great sacrifice that should not be overlooked. I think the great brotherhood that Kenya and Somalia and other countries in the region have had for all this time must be sustained, and it must be improved. But we do not want external forces to come and even add more fuel to the fire and make matters worse. For now, Dr. Masanga, I submit.
Thank you very much. I have invited Mr. Abdi Samad Ali. You can join in. Our Zoom is open. Join in and tell us why you want a war in the region. Why should this come today, and why can't it wait until we get a territory 1 inch? You don't have even 1 inch of a territory. You are relying on foreign people to be guarding you, and you want to go for more territory. So come in, talk to us, open up, enter the race. We are not worried of your coming. Whatever words you will say here, we shall contain them. Daniel Wesonga, lastly, we have no time, 10 o'clock exactly, and we want to switch on to another program coming up with Miriam. Daniel Wesonga.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Masanga. And of course, having read yesterday your letter to the UN, I totally agree that we do not need to have another war in the Horn of Africa like what we had in Libya. Remember right now, and as you mentioned in your letter, that Libya is in chaos. Libya has been dismembered due to the carelessness of the players who are supposed to move in with speed and be able to actually mitigate that kind of a situation. And therefore, I do agree with you that instead of having the ICJ, which gives ruling and has no capacity to implement its ruling, to give an opinion, to give a judgment over this matter, it is better the UN intervenes through the UN Security Council. And through the letter, I was actually able to also be educated that the UN Security Council can stop the proceedings in order to give Kenya and Somalia to seek out of court settlement under the AU constitutive agreement resolving disputes regarding boundaries. And I believe that is a very, very great insight that you've given all the players who are involved in this particular case. Because one thing, once the ICJ rules, there's nothing which shall come out of this particular ruling, because it will just be a smokescreen. And this smokescreen will be having a far much reaching ramifications, because it's going to incite, it is going to cause chaos, it is going to raise tensions between Kenya and Somalia. And what will that result into? It is more likely to spark a war between Kenya and Somalia. So therefore, I believe as an elder, you've seen whatever other people wouldn't have seen even standing on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. So let them follow whatever advice you are giving them. And in your letter, you are very, very categorical that UN, it should be able to guide the ICJ as the line manager of the ICJ, so that it does not make a ruling which will actually occasion an act of aggression between the two countries. I truly support that, Dr. Matsanga, because the ICJ will rule and then it will disappear into the abyss. Who will be left behind to sort out the mess? It is only Kenya and Somalia. And without any arbiter who comes maybe under the auspices of the AU or maybe the UN, then a war is more imminent than any other time we've had before. So to me, I think these two nations are the center of this controversy. These two nations are the ones who can sort their own messes. And due to the non-compliance of the administration of President Mohamed Farmajo in Somalia, I think the UN's hand coming up in it should be able to force the Somali government on the table, so that we can forge a very amicable solution out of court, so that at the end of it, each and every party will have a solution in this particular discussion. So, but as it is right now, if we continue and let the ICJ proceed to make a ruling on this matter, we shall be sparking a fire that we might not be able to put out in the coming days. I submit, Dr. Matsanga.
Thank you very much, the panel. Thank you very much, viewers. Thank you, all of you. We want to thank you. I have done my best. Let history judge me, and let it not judge me harshly. If a war breaks out in the Indian Ocean, everybody will run to say, where is that letter? Sometime back in 2011, I wrote about Libya. And I believe all of you can go in the history and Google that letter that Matsanga wrote about Libya. It's very clear. I warned. Sometime back, I wrote about Sudan, South Sudan. I said to get peace in South Sudan, you need to go to the basics, not the way, the model that they bring of recycling violence. This time I put myself at the cutting knife of internationalism and those malcontents of international politics. The people who see bad in people who speak out. I'm not bothered. I have spoken out. The consequences remain mine, and I have no regrets for saying so. But if I'm wrong, I'm not a prophet. Near Elijah, near did I come from the line of Elijah. But as a Christian, I believe, just as Muslims believe, that once you stick on the truth and tell the truth and speak about it all the time, you become vindicated. How many times have I been vindicated on issues of Kenya? I said ICC was a petty, it's a fake organization. It came out true. I talked about South Sudan, it came out true. I talked about Ethiopia, it has come out true. I talked about 15 countries in sub-Saharan Africa becoming destabilized. It is now we are going for the 16th country. Anytime now, another one is falling. So thank you very much. Good morning, Africa. Good morning, wherever you are, the panel, Sharon, Tawish, Daniel. Back to you and Miriam Ogutu in the studios for our Friday show of the Unfiltered. Good morning.
All right, thank you. And don't go too far. Unfiltered will be with you in just a few.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.